Hey, what's going on? In this video, I'm going to be making a set of 3 Damascus kitchen knives. I'm going to forge out a huge billet of Damascus so that I can hopefully make all 3 knives from the same billet. There'll be an 8-inch chef knife, a 7-inch boning knife, and a 4-inch paring knife. The customer also picked out some beautiful stabilized Amboyna handle scales that I'll be putting on all 3. So let's get to it. I'm going to be using 1084 and 15 and 20 for the Damascus. I'm going to get all these cut, cleaned, and stacked, and then we'll get it in the forge. Now that I got all the mill scale ground off all of these, I'm going to clean them with acetone, and then I'll stack it up and get it welded. You know, it's funny, I was out here working in the shop like I am pretty much every day, and the Amazon delivery driver came up and he's like kind of excited. He's like, "Oh man, can I take a look at that?" He gets like probably 2 or 3 steps away, kind of slows down, and you can just like hear the disappointment in his voice because he goes, "Oh, you don't know how to weld, do you? Never mind." And then he just turns around and starts to head back to the truck. Now, I would certainly never call myself a good welder, but was that really necessary? Kind of deflated my ego there, but I don't know, I feel like I weld good enough to do what I want. Oh, for our first heat. This is gonna have to be my last heat, because this is as long as my forge can handle. Should do it for today. Still only at 21 layers, but we can't go any bigger in the forge, so I'm gonna have to cut it up. All right, so here's our first billet, and I was curious about the weight before I go cutting it up. £6 pounds, 14 ounces, so just about 17, or just about 7 pounds. So we'll see what we end up with after a couple stacks. I would bet we're somewhere around like maybe 24 inches long. All right, we got our billet all drawn out. I'm gonna clean it up, grind out any cold shuts that I got, and then we'll cut it into 3 different pieces for the chef knife, the boning knife, and the paring knife. It's nice when you're forging in the tip to keep your stock a little bit thicker and then thin it out afterwards. So you can kind of get a sense of how that blade profile changed just with this move of forcing material in here. You extend the heel of the blade down here, and it kind of brings your handle up a little bit. And now you can see where if you're in a chopping action, your knuckles are going to stay well clear of you know, a cutting board or whatever. All right, I got to show you one more thing with shaping the handle, and it's getting that little pinky flare. It's such a simple task, but it totally changes the feel of a handle. All right, so I pretty much got this all forged out. I haven't done any grinder work yet. I'm gonna extend this up. I wanna make the handle just a little bit longer. The blade is about 1 inch over length, so I'll be able to trim it down a little. I'll probably lose a little when I grind in the bevels. So I'm shooting for an 8-inch chef knife, and right now the cutting edge is about 9 inches, so I got room to work with on the grinder. All right, well, I didn't get this one totally forged to shape, but I'm gonna call that good. Get it nice and straight, and then fix up the profile on the grinder. All right, well, I got the forge heating up for forging out the paring knife. I'm gonna go ahead and drill holes in the handles on this chef knife and boning knife. So I did some thermocycling where I heated these knives in the forge and then let them air cool. That should kind of do like a quick anneal and soften them enough that I can drill through the tank. All right, got all the handle holes in the chef knife. I'm gonna get back to forging now on the paring knife. I figure since I showed you one way to work the choil, I'm gonna show you with the crossbeam and the hammer. Now, this way is a little bit dangerous because depending on the profile of the blade, you can cause it to bounce up into your knuckles. So kind of take it easy and kind of get a feel for what you're doing before you try it. All right, so I'm getting ready to quench these knives. I did 3 normalization cycles, one at 1650, one at 1500, and one at 1400 degrees Fahrenheit. I just let them air cool after a 10-minute soak at temp. And now I'm going to quench at 1475 because this is Infinity 4 and 15 and 20. I'm going to quench in Parks 50 at 1475. So we'll let that get up to temp and then quench. So this setup up here with these quench plates is pretty cool. I picked it up from Torus CNC, but I use them after I quench. When the blade's still, it's probably still, 600 or 800 degrees, but I'll let the oil run off and then I'll put it in the quench plates, and that helps bring it down quickly to room temperature. But it also really addresses warping. It keeps the blade super straight as it comes down to temp. They're so easy to use. All right, I just wanted to let the air compressor kick off before I pulled this out of here. So within I don't know, maybe 2 minutes or so, we're at room temperature. And it is perfectly straight. This weighed about a pound when I started, and now it's down to 9 ounces, which is still actually kind of heavy for a chef knife. But this is so tall, it's about 2.5 inches. It feels good in the hand though, the balance is nice. Hand sanding is probably the most tedious part of knife making. Pretty much every knife complainer sits and complains about it because everybody hates doing it. And I suppose I'd say that I'm in the same boat. I don't like doing it, and I tend to put it off when I catch myself stalling in the shop. But man, when you finish a nice high grit finish on a Damascus blade, and then you go dip it in the acid and you get to see the pattern for the first time, God, it's beautiful. I feel like it just makes it all worth it. I got the handle all glued up on the paring knife, and we'll let that cure while we start working on shaping the handles on the chef knife and the boning knife, and then we'll get this set wrapped up. All right, that's gonna wrap it up for this set. Hopefully I'll see you in the next build. Thanks for watching.